Okay, this is probably our most important lecture of the whole semester. It's on culturally specific museums. So we're going to start with the Sackler Museum at Harvard, which is dedicated to all Asian art. I don't know if I've ever been in there before. It is allowed to keep the Sackler name because he had nothing to do with the opioid crisis, although there was a major uh, protest in there a couple of years ago. And here's the inside. And then we have the Asia Society in New York City. Usually when it says society, it means that it is a full sort of table of programming, including languages, including different types of classes, and also a art component is there too. Same thing with the Japan Society. We as a country are fascinated by Japan, and that's no different. I mean, I always remember there's a lot of anime and manga interests in the early aughts, and it kind of was a powerful influence on a lot of Purpose students, and I think still today you have that a little bit at least. And then this is the Museum of Chinese in America. It's in Chinatown in New York City, and it's actually a former house that somebody owned, and it's supposed to have just really great programming. Okay, so there's two museums that make up the National Museum of Asian Art. One is the Sackler. Hold on. And the other one is the Freer. And the Freer was a individual person's Asian art and American art that was connected to Asian art collection. And it's on the Mall. It's the last art museum. No, I guess it's not the last art museum, but it's the only museum in which it's an individual person's collection. Okay, inside the Freer Gallery is, of course, the Peacock Room that was decorated by James McNeill Whistler. It's a stunning gold-laced room, and you can't go inside it, but you can certainly observe it as a period room. The Seattle Art Museum, Asian Art Museum, is in a park that overlooks the Bay of Seattle. They just recently had an addition to it, and it is a really stunning place to see some art. And here's a bird's eye view of the museum. And I saw this exhibit. I think his name is Mr. Yes. And it's obviously very influenced by, or it's very much an example of contemporary Japanese art. Okay, the Wing Luck Museum of Asian Pacific American Experience is in Chinatown in Seattle. And it also is a former dwelling of a Chinese American family. And it has hosted a lot of exhibitions about Bruce Lee, the very famous martial arts movie star, who I didn't know was from Seattle. And then the other thing I wanted to say about this museum is they were really some of the first people to ask community experts to come in and curate shows. There's a whole book about it, actually, that I read parts of. And that is really a common practice today in a lot of museums. And here's the inside. Ooh, I love this performance hall. And do you know Bruce? There's the poster for it. Okay, so the Japanese American National Museum, its mission is basically to inform people more than anything else about the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. But it also has other programming. We went to a show about Hello Kitty, which was exceptional, and it's closed right now for a little while, but I hope it comes back soon. And then here's the Hello Kitty sign. Okay, the USC Asia Pacific Museum, I went to it before University of Southern California took it over. It's just a broad collection of Asian Pacific art. Okay, the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco is in an old sort of classical building, and I don't think they've added on to it anytime soon. And I really like their online exhibitions, which I think are exceptional. Here we are inside. I loved my experience there a couple years ago. Okay, this is, Victoria Chinatown, I think, in Victoria, Canada, which was closed when I was there. Yeah, we didn't get to see it, which is unfortunate. Okay, now let's go to National Museum of American Latino, which is going to be one of the new museums in Washington, D.C. The other one that was approved was a women's history museum. Look for it to be built probably in the next, 5 to 7 years. And what they're doing is they're creating exhibitions in other Smithsonian museums to sort of get people excited about the new one that's coming up. El Museo del Barrio is the premier Latin American cultural art museum in the United States. And it's really exceptional. I was there back in 2000. They do a lot of really great programming, and you should check it out if you go to New York City. Oh, that's cool. I love the bedroom. Okay, the National Museum of Mexican Art. Is that one? Hold on a second. Yeah, that's in Chicago. Which gives you a sense of the broad nature of Latin American immigration in the United States. Because we're going to see that it's not just in California. Here's a photo of the inside. Okay, so Cheech Marin was a star of films in the 1980s as the comedy group Cheech and Chong. And interestingly enough, at the time he started to make money in acting, he started to collect Chicano art. And he now has a separate museum inside, it's in a part of the Long Beach Museum. And they were very happy to get the collection. And here's a beautiful, large piñata that was part of an exhibition. Okay, Museum of Latin American Art is in Long Beach, Southern California. I have not been there. I think it's near LA. And here's some works inside that one. Okay, another one is the Latino Art Museum of Pomona. So a lot of these are still in, or at least the last two have been in Southern California. Contemplating a work there. Okay, so maybe the most important museum that's been open in the last, what would it be, 22 years, is definitely in Washington, D.C., the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It's 3 stories above and 3 stories below, and it's the hardest museum to get into today in Washington, D.C. And I was lucky enough to do that. And they do a lot of online programming because their mission is to give people a sense of African American history for their own classrooms or for their own individual study. And here's an inside look at 2 of the levels. Oh, I love the National Museum of African Art. It's behind the Smithsonian Castle, and it's underground, much like the Sackler Gallery is for Asian art. And I'm always looking at their website. They've always got great exhibitions. I took students there when I was working in D.C. It's really an incredible place. Aha, masquerade. So you get inside that and you twirl it. Okay, the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture is the premier library in the United States for African American culture. It's part of the New York Public Library. It's quite exceptional, and they have very interesting exhibits, and it's a beacon in New York City for African American culture. The Africa Center is always trying to get off the ground. It seems like they're about to sort of have more of a presence in New York City. I don't know what the latest is. I hope they're doing well. So stay tuned, so to speak. Okay, the Museum of Contemporary African Diasporan Arts. The next time I'm in New York City, I'm definitely going to go there. It is very much of interest to me. I am totally interested in African culture and art. It's my favorite non-Western type of culture and art. And there seems to be more museums that are talking about diasporas of certain people globally. And here's inside. Okay, and then the DeSable Museum is in Chicago, and I think it's part of the University of Chicago. I could be wrong about that. I've been there before, and it is an institution that celebrates African American culture in Chicago, but even beyond. Oh, there's a Kara Walker painting, very large. Okay, so in Memphis, there's the National Civil Rights Museum. It's where MLK was shot. And so the hotel itself has been refurbished into a museum. And I met somebody that during an online workshop who works who is in the educational department, and so they're doing some great things. And here's one of the famous buses of the Civil Rights Movie. This is one in Charleston. It's the Museum of African Diaspora, and it I screwed that up. International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. It just opened a couple of years ago, and it looks like it has some great programming. I was here just a couple of years ago, California African American Museum. I saw some shows on LaToya Ruby Frazier, who documented the closing of a GM plant in either Indiana or Ohio. So a woman became the CEO of this museum a couple of years ago, and she really infused it with new programming and made a name for herself so that she took a job, I think, at the Getty or at LACMA, I think. So that proves that you can start off in a smaller museum, get recognized, and then be able to translate that over into a bigger job. There we are inside. Okay, I have been to MOAD, the Museum of African Diaspora, much like the one, or similar to the one in New York City. And I don't remember exactly the exhibition that I saw. It's a very small space, and it's very near the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. All right, I came to DC about a month or two after this incredible museum was opened in 2004. It's the National Museum of the American Indian. They have to say American Indian in the title instead of say Native people or Indigenous people because that's how the federal government has it in its documents. And one of the things, of course, that's wonderful about this museum, it's in such great contrast to all the neoclassical museums on the mall. So it's very organic and beautiful. And they're charged with having a lot of online presence as well. Okay, and then there's a second one, which is the older museum before 2004 that's in an old classical building in New York City. This one I don't know as much about. It's the Eltejorg Museum of American Indians and Western Art, and it's in Indianapolis. Okay, so I went to Vancouver, Canada in the summer of 2024. And this is one of the most beautiful museums I've ever been in. It's the Bill Reed Museum. He was a indigenous person who sculpted, made jewelry, made prints, all kinds of things. So it's totally dedicated to him as a artist. That's an amazing piece, to say the least. Okay, we're almost done. The Arab American National Museum is in Dearborn, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit, and they have a very large museum and presence in Dearborn, Michigan. I don't know if you guys knew that, but yeah, so Arab Americans are very there's a huge population near Detroit. And here's one of their exhibitions. Okay, what are we doing here? Now we're in Toronto to the Aga Khan Museum. It's a pretty new museum about Islamic art. There's also one that recently opened up in Australia that I sometimes get emails from. Okay, so here's inside with some I guess rugs primarily, it looks like, at that museum. And then where are we at? Oh, I think we're in Istanbul, actually. Yeah. So this is the Topkapi Palace Museum. I've been there, believe it or not. It is a museum about the Ottoman Empire because the palace was the center of that empire, and it has lots of really fascinating things inside it, including a hair from the beard of Muhammad, a footprint, all kinds of things that he touched. So yeah, it's something else for sure. And then here's inside. Ooh, there's the footprint. I forgot I put it in here. Awesome. And then last but not least, another museum of Islamic art is the Beniki Museum in Athens. And I believe it was closed when we went there recently. Okay, that's it. That was a big one. Okay, thanks. Bye.